Guys, let's continue with the next topic. I believe today's topic you will definitely like because I'm trying to show and solve some kind of great use case. So I can say it is not like solve. I'm trying to implement some great, I can say, the infrastructure, and that infrastructure I would like to automate with the Ansible. Okay, so the main topic for today is how you can set up the load balancer for the web services using the Ansible. So the complete topic for today is how we can configure the load balancer. Okay, but before I take this topic, how you configure the load balancer, and not only the load balancer, there's one more topic that normally with the load balancer we implement, that is called a reverse proxy. So, so today's topic, guys, would be how you can configure. So, guys, again, I'm talking about configure, right? Because there's a difference between to configure the thing and to create the thing. So, if I talk about create or develop, then there's a different things. For this, then we have to use some kind of programming language, maybe Go, maybe Java, maybe Python. But here till now, from the first day onward, we are talking only about configuring the user, configuring the web server, configuring something like this for in our current environment, right? so so technically, what I'm talking about here is so today's topic is how we can configure load balancer, or not, or I can say and at the reverse proxy using the Ansible. But there's a way I have explained you yesterday, right? If you want to do something or you want to configure something uh, uh, in using any of the configuration management tool, maybe Ansible, right? You should know first the concepts of that particular tool or that particular servers. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do first, again, I would like to do in the three steps, right? The first step is I am going to explain you the concept, or I can say the use cases of this topic. This is the first step. Then I'm going to show you how we can configure the load balancer manually. I mean, it will give you the idea, or it will give the steps. And after you configure manually, the same step that we used in the manual process, we will convert that manual steps into the Ansible code. And I believe, guys, the way I did yesterday, till the second step, it might take some time. Okay, because understanding the concept, then doing it in manual, it takes some time. But after you guys be comfortable till these steps in any of the technology, maybe Docker, maybe AWS cloud, maybe load balancer, or maybe HTTP authentication, what we did yesterday, then after this step, if you want to automate the things, it won't be normally a big challenge. Okay, so why I'm discussing this here, because this is the normal approach you have to use in any of the future technology, because obviously we are purely into the Ansible training, right? And obviously in this training I can't cover all the technology or the conf server that is available in the market. Okay, even though I'm taking a lot of topics that is not the part of our program, and this topic also, it is not at all the part of our Red Hat official training. So I'm taking this topic again as an extra topic, as a bonus lecture for you. Why? Because I want to give you a lot of multiple flavor or multiple use case or multiple approach to show you how to use Ansible, so you guys become comfortable with Ansible. So any of the environment you guys work on, maybe in JBoss or WebSphere, WebLogic, maybe on some other technologies, you guys can use Ansible to configure anything and everything. Okay, so let's start with today's topic, that is called how we can configure the reverse proxy on the load balancer. And I believe I'm taking this class in such a way that I feel you guys are new in this topic of load balancer. So I'm just going to explain this topic from the very zero. Okay, so let me start from here. So till now, guys, I believe you guys know what is the web server. Okay, so we guys know how to configure the web server. So let's say we use Apache company product that's called HTTPD. Using this product, we have configured web server, and you guys know web server normally and by default work on a port number 80. Okay, and you guys also know web server main requirement and use case is to host a website, or I can say host the web pages. There's the main use case of the web server. Okay, so guys, can you hold for a second, please? Um, so, uh, so technically, let's say you have a website written in some language. Let's say typically an HTML code. So you have a write a website in HTML code, and you host your website using the web server. Okay, and maybe let's say till now we have one this node or one computer having the IP1. So finally, who are going to use this web server? Some of our client from the network or from the internet, they will use this web server. Okay. So how they come? Obviously using the internet or network connections. They come to IP1, head to the port number 80, connect to the web server and ask to get these web pages. Very simple. And web server will reply their request, and they present their first page or home page and whatever page they requested in their URL. Web server provided those web pages to the client. So till now, guys, very straightforward, nothing very fancy here. Now, here there's one challenge you guys might face. The challenge would be something like this. Normally, if you talk about any server, maybe mail server or LDAP server or NFS server, whatever server you guys know, let's say here about the web server. So every server has a hard coded limit. Okay, what I mean by this, right? If some of the client come, because this is internet and you have internet connection, or maybe hundreds and thousands of clients. We have client 1, client 2, client 3. Right, so what I mean by limit here, so normally in the server we have a limit. Okay, and the limit means in one point in time, let's say only 100 client can connect. Okay, just I'm just giving as example, maybe more or less, depend upon server to server, depend upon the resources you add, or depend upon how you configure the internal conf file of the server. But just for example, let's say at one point in time, or in the same point in time, I can say maximum 100 client can connect to your web server. It means, right, if 100 different client connected, let's just see 100 client connected, and same point in time, if one more client come up or second more client come up, right, and try to connect the web server, because already 100 client connected, or they are already connected website. So these client will get a response from the network or from the server and say server is busy. Or maybe they will keep on your waiting arrows keep on waiting to have a proper connectivity, or they maybe get some error, and normally in the error they might have written timeout, that we are trying to connect a server, but they are busy with other clients, and finally we get the message timeout, or some other message we might receive, or this client will receive. Okay, and while you have this message, because you're in your web server, you host your some website or web pages, and this may be your e-commerce site, and you start marketing your web servers, and suddenly your web server become or e-commerce site become viral, and lots of clients start connecting your sites. Okay, so in this case, if you talk about this company perspective, they invested a lot of money in the marketing and advertisement. So what they wanted, if the client is coming to them, they never want to lose their client. But in this case, because this server has a limit of 100, because server has a limit of 100, because this the site become viral, so any other new client come up more than 100, so they will have a disconnection. Because they never reach to this website, and obviously they will never buy the product from the company, And it's not about the business load, it is about the reputation loss also. So in this case, what I want, right, what I'm trying to explain you, because the challenge we have here is, the good thing is a lot of client is coming. That's a good thing for us. The bad thing is, because we have only one single server, one single server, and by chance maybe the server has some limit of 100. So we can't connect more than 100 client in the one single go. That is a limitations, or the challenge we have. To solve the challenge, what can we do? What can we do? Maybe in the server I go to some of the confine server, and if I try to increase the limit, but there might be some kind of hard limit that I can't increase more than 100 or more than 1000, for example. Or let's say a hard limit we have is 100, or we can't increase more than 100. So in this scenario, what can we do, and how we can solve the challenge? Pretty simple. I can launch one more operating system. I can launch one more Docker container. I can launch one more VM. Or maybe this VM has IP 2, and I configure this guy. And the good thing is, because if I launch one more, and you want to configure the same web server, because I want to have a same exit web server with same website content, with same port number, same configuration. The good thing is to configure this guy very quickly, because my client is waiting, or new client is keep on coming. I don't want to lose more clients. Again, here I can use Ansible. I asked Ansible, there's one more new computer come up, make this computer as a target node, or the Ansible inventory, and configure this guy. Ansible will run the playbook and configure this guy with exactly the same way that I have in IP IP1. So we don't have an issue in configuring the IP2 as a new web server with exact copy. Okay, but in this case, the challenge that you will face here is, because this is a new VM with a new IP address, or because this is new IP address, now what you have to do while doing a marketing of your company, you have to tell all of the client and all of the internet, right, that now you have two different IPs. One is IP1, one is IP2. So anybody who want to access the website, so they can come to any of the IP. So let's say first client connect to IP1, they connect to IP, second client connect to IP1, they connect to 100 client connect to IP1, they connect it. And again, next client connect to IP1, or they see there's a lot of load there, they're still waiting. So because they have the second IP, they change the URL in the browser and connect to IP2. Okay, and finally they connect it, because this system guy is still is free. There's nobody's connected, and 100 different new clients will connect it. But again, your site become more famous and more viral. Same way you launch one more computer with have a same website, and you can use Ansible to configure this guy. And again, after the configure, you can start promoting one more IP. But in this case, guys, you know what? Let's say you have millions of clients, or you launch hundreds of computers, or because you launch hundreds of computer, okay, hundreds of IP you have, and because you hundreds of IP you have, uh, it is what very illogical, or it is not like look like a great to give all the 100 IP to your clients and say just keep on trying IP1, IP2, IP3, finally you get the connection, because we have a lot of servers who is serving to you. Okay, but guys, for the client perspective, we never do this. Because client is very busy, right? For example, Google say I had 10,000 computer and giving all the IP of 10,000 computer to you. You are the client, I have the web server or search engine. Okay, just try IP1, IP2. I don't know which server is busy at that point in time where you are coming as a client. Just keep on trying with all the IPs, and whenever you find some of the IPs free, you connect it. In this case, guys, believe me, nobody gonna use Google or Facebook. But Google as a Facebook as a company has they require hundreds and thousands of computers, a server to serve it. Because every server has a limitation in terms of hardware, software. There's a lot of kind of limitations we have. Okay, so guys, the challenge here is right. The challenge was we have a limit. To solve this challenge, we can launch multiple computers. Okay, but if you launch multiple computer, multiple IP come up. Okay, and now this will give you one more challenge. So what can we do? Okay, and this challenge, guys, there might be one more possibility, right? One more possibility. Maybe right now three system is working, and because the system is running, and guys, whenever you run any server or computers, it comes with the cost. So every hourly we have to pay in terms of RAM and CPU, in the terms of electric current and all the thing, right? We have to pay per hourly basis or per monthly basis, or we have to invest some money on it. So normally, with a good management perspective in the terms of infrastructure cost, what normally company do, they launch the three computers, and after some time they see there's not a lot of clients is coming. Maybe this is the night, in the night time nobody come a lot. Not a lot of guys come at the night time, right? So what they do, they to for saving the cost, they shut down some of the computer, and if they shut down the computer, this IP lose. But we already announced this IP to all the internet. And that point in time, if some of the client try to connect to IP2, this is down. Again, it's bad for reputation for the company. The server is down. And next time they up, there might be possibility. Normally, we have a way to make this IP static, means IP never change. But maybe there might be possibility again when we start the system that next time the IP might change. Let's say IP6. Again company announced to internet, right? So finally what I'm talking about, because lots of client can come up, it means we have a huge traffic, and because you have a huge network traffic for the web server, we need lots of web servers. That's what we need. But challenge we have here is how we can manage multiple IPGs. The IPs keep on changing, IP increasing, decreasing. How we can manage the IP address? And for this, what process we use? For this, what we normally use, okay, instead we give all the IPs after IP change or new IP come up, okay, but to the to all of our client, what we do, we launch one computer here. And what we do, guys, this is one computer, and we fix the IP of this computer. Let's say this IP is 100, we fix it, we didn't, this IP never change. And what we companies started promoting, okay, they start promoting that anybody who would like to come to my website, so my website is actually running on the IP 100, and this company start promoting that IP 100 is my actual web application or website to all the clients in the in the internet. But technically, if you talk about the IP100, IP100 is just a normal operating system, and there is no website actually available there, and there's no web pages available there. Why? Because they use some kind of trick here. So what they did, because this computer belonged to this company, okay. So what they did, they'll tell the IP100 that if anybody come to you and say that are you the website, are you the web server, you have to say yes. But I know you don't have the website. So what you do, if any client come to you, sorry, if any client come to you, okay, take the request from that client. Sorry, take their request from that client, don't deny, and say yes, you are the website, but behind the scene, behind the scene, send this request to me, to IP address 1, okay. And because I am the real website, I will reply with my content, my web pages to you, because they come to you, and for my behalf, okay, you have to reply to the client. So because the client come for the website, and finally they see the website, or because they come to you, or because they come to you, and they send the request to you, and because you reply, they feel, yeah, you are the real website, but you are not. So what you are doing on my behalf, on my behalf, you are serving the request. And guys, if somebody serving somebody behalf something, it is normally known as proxy. So what we did, what we have done here, we make IP100 as a proxy program or a proxy server. Okay, and what the IP100 is doing, IP100 is doing, right? If if some client come to IP100, IP100 hold this request for some second, or I can say millisecond, all right, and send this request to IP1. And IP1 prospective, IP1 thing, okay, IP1 thing, the client is IP100. Okay, they're not sending the client name, actually IP100 is sending the reply on the behalf of the client. So in this time and this point, if I start tagging this thing, so first client send the request to IP100. So this is the first step. So according to client, IP100 is a server, but IP100 will recreate the request. Okay, and second step is IP100 send the request to the web server. So web server feel that IP100, sorry, 1 minute. Web server feel IP100 is the client, and they reply to the IP100 to feel that IP100 is a client. This is step number 3. And after IP100 get the page from the web server, they will reply because they get the page and they will reply to the real client. This is the 4th step. So if you guys see this process, according to the client, IP100 is a server. And according to real server, IP100 is a client. But in this case, technically, IP100 is never a client or never a server, but they work as a proxy. And guys, that is the reason because they are sending on the behalf of client the request. That is the reason this is also known as reverse proxy, because they're reversing the request from the client side. So it's called reverse proxy or reverse proxy server. Okay, you know what actually you achieve in this process. Lots of things achieve. One of the achievement you did is, okay, it means you get an extra security from this process. And what extra security you receive in this process? It means client always has some IP address, and because the client is the internet, they will have some kind of public IP address, maybe private IP address, but normally they have public IP address that is associated with their modem and the router. Okay, in this case, client never hit to the web server, or because client never hit to web server guys always hit by this IP. Or it means guys, if you know a little bit about the firewall, so in this case in the web server, you don't have to allow all the IP on the internet. So in the firewall you have to only allow IP100. So in the web server firewall we can write, if any request come from IP100, allow this guy. Because always IP100 comes, so client IP would be anything. But all the client will send IP100, and IP100 is the one who sent the request to web server. So so finally my main web server perspective here, the IP1 feel, because request is also always come from IP100. So in my security rule or my firewall rule, only I allow 100. So technically in the security world, it is known as, we by this process we also isolated our server. Okay, right now we are not in the security classes, so but I just wanted to give you, by this process, why with this approach we get extra security out of the box. That's a different point. Okay, but here this is not my main point here. My main point here is this reverse proxy. Because now it means it means all the client have to go via IP100. So we can tell IP100 to do one more thing for us. We tell IP100 now, because we have coming lots of requests coming to my server. Okay, now the client increase and this client come to you. You are just a fake server or proxy server, right? But if you keep on sending all the requests over more than 100 clients, I have a limit. I have the limit. So what you do is IP100. Now any new request come up. Okay, so I'm connecting one more internal web server to you, or I'm associating one more internet web server to you. So what you do now, any new request come up, you have to do the same process, but next time you have to send the request to this guy. Okay, next day, or maybe more requests. Maybe we have maybe more than 200 requests. So I'm telling my IP100 that I am connecting some more new server associated, or technically here is called register some more web server to you. So next request comes sent to this guy. So if you see in this diagram, there's 3 web server running with IP1, IP3, or IP2, IP6. But for the client perspective or internet client perspective, they don't have to know any of the IP address. They don't have to remember those IP address. So the IP maybe keep on changing, maybe keep on increasing or decreasing, right? They have to remember only one IP, even though they never come to know how many server behind the scene serving that website. And guys, this is a very typical setup. Everywhere you will see, if you go to Google, Amazon, Facebook, where we see that we have a huge website, or hundreds and millions of clients they have. Everywhere, this is the very common setup everybody use. Okay, but in this setup, you'll achieve one more thing. Again, out of the blue, what you'll achieve. If I create this diagram again one more time very quickly. So this is the internet, hundreds of clients we have. And in between, we have one computer that will work as a reverse proxy, let's say IP100. So initially we have one single computer. that work as a real web server with real website. Let's say I'm working on the IP1, and all the requests this reverse proxy is sending to only one server because we have only one single web server. But load increase, we'll ask Ansible to configure one more web server for us. As soon as you configure one more server, you have to somehow manually or with the help of automation, you have to register this guy, because obviously how my reverse proxy know that one more new computer come up. So there's some manual method or automated method. We'll discuss both the method in the Ansible classes. We have to register this guy or this new web server to the reverse proxy. But as soon, guys, as you add one more web server to sorry guys, to this reverse proxy, normally reverse proxy give you one more facility out of the blue, that is called load balancer or load balancing. Means what they do now, after this, as soon as the one more computer test, after this, as soon as the first request come, they will send to IP1. But as soon as second request come, they automatically send to IP2. Third request send here, fourth request send here, fifth, sixth, like this. So technically what they're doing, okay, they are balancing the request for all the client. So not in this case, not one computer will have a complete load. We are balancing the load between two servers. But in totality, both the server will have, let's say, around 200 requests they can connect. But more traffic come up, we can ask the Ansible to configure one more node for us. Maybe this node, maybe let's say IP10. But it doesn't matter, guys. In this case, your IP would be anything. After you configure this guy as again the web server, we again connect this guy or register this guy with the same reverse proxy. But for this reverse proxy, now there's three server running behind the scene. And by chance, guys, in this case, the server for the load balancer perspective or reverse proxy perspective, also known as backend server. So now we have three backend server running with a real web server with a real website. But now we don't have any issue with the IP address. Okay, they're connected, and now whenever the requests come up, first request send here, second send here, third send here, fourth, fifth, sixth. So lots of that, guys, in this example or in this setup, lots of issues normally we have it been solved. The first issue that I started with, now my client don't have to know and remember these IP address. Okay, and we can change any of the IP address from a backend server. We have to only promote this IP. Or normally in the real world, we don't promote the IP. We always give IP as some name that's called host name or domain name, and we promote those host name, domain name to the client. For example, in Facebook is www.facebook.com or www.google.com or gmail.com. We provide to the client. So name never change, or every name has their own IP address. The IP never change. But guys, whenever see any google.com IP address, Facebook IP, they are never the real web server of the Google or the Facebook. Okay, they are just one of the load balancer or reverse proxy running there. If you try to hack them, if you try to go inside those server, you never see the real website of Facebook and the Google. Okay, they are just a dummy kind of proxy. Okay, their duty is to just reverse proxy the request, or their duty is just to load balance the request. Their server is running behind the scene on some of the secure isolated environment. Okay, where this server is never allowed to go to internet or they're never allowed to have a connectivity from the outside world. So guys, yeah, this class is not about security or networking. So anybody who was there with me in my AWS classes, so we will talk a lot about security and networking or concept called netting and other things over there. Okay, but here I just wanted to explain you very quickly and very high level about sorry, how a reverse proxy work and what is some of the extra benefit of the reverse proxy. Okay, so today's, guys, we are going to do this particular setup. Okay, and guys, again, if you want to configure something like reverse proxy, or I can say load balancer, because whenever you configure reverse proxy, a load balancer will come as a extra extra feature for us. So if you want to create configure reverse proxy or the load balancer, right, you have to configure this computer or IP100 or IP100 as a server. And for configuring anything as a server, you need some product, and there's a lot of product available in the market to configure as a proxy. For example, one of the product is called Nginx, but there's a very common product that we use a lot. It's called HA proxy. So HA proxy is one of the software or package or product that we can use to configure a reverse proxy or a load balancer. Okay, so guys, that's what we want to do. So what you achieve finally by default out of the blue, you get a security, your server been isolated. Okay, and the interesting thing is, right, till now, guys, if you notice, till now, if you want to connect to any of the client, you have to provide in the URL the IP of the server. But this might be first time what you will see. I'm not going to provide the IP of this guy. I am going to provide the IP of 100. You will provide the IP 100, but internally your request be sent here and actual page will come from IP1. For the client, they will only see IP 100, but content will come from IP1. So that's an interesting thing you will see today. Okay. It means without client, and it means client don't know my IP, and without knowing the IP, they can they can see the content of IP1, or they can connect. It means they are isolated. They don't have a direct connectivity. Second, you achieve the reverse proxy. There's a difference. Same thing. Third, you achieve the load balancer. Some more extra small benefit you will achieve by this particular setup. So, guys, this is the very high level concept of load balancer and the reverse proxy. Okay, so how to configure it? So let me show you this configuration manually. Okay, manually, and after you see this concept manually, then we will do the same setup. We'll do the same setup with the Ansible. But before this, I have to give some more vocabulary here. Okay, in this setup, the main web server are known as the backend server. Okay, and your reverse proxy and load balancer, uh, whatever the IP they have, for the client always connect to this guy. So these guys are known as front end. So reverse proxy is known as front end. And you guys know one more thing: whenever any client connect, client always come to IP address. Guys, whenever any client come to your IP address, we never connect to IP address. We always connect to some of the port number. So this reverse proxy should have some port number. Okay, so here, guys, you can give any port number. It will be your choice. Maybe 80, 81, 80, 80. That would be your choice. So client, finally, whenever the client come and write the URL, they have to write the IP address of the load balancer with colon the port number of the load balancer. And this port is known as a front end port. But technically what happened when any client come to the IP100 with this port number, right, behind the scene, your load balancer, or I can say a reverse proxy, connect this guy to IP1. But guys, for the IP1, reverse proxy is the client. And because reverse proxy is the client, okay, so this IP1 should also have some port number. So by for guys, our web server actually working on a port number 80. So what I'm talking about, you have to tell to the front end or to the reverse proxy that your backend server is working on IP1 with port number 80 or 81 or 8081, whatever guys you configure your web server on. Okay, it means all this information you have to tell to the reverse proxy. So what do you tell to the reverse proxy? You have to tell the reverse proxy that IP2 is your web server working on, let's say this time web server working on a port number 81, working on that 81. So these two information you have to tell to your HA proxy program or the reverse proxy program. HA proxy is just a product name. Okay, and telling this information is technically known as a registry. So we have to register this information. Where? In my reverse proxy. And here the product name is called HA proxy. Okay, so that part, guys, we have to register. And I'm showing guys all those things to you with manual right now. Then we'll see how to do the same thing with the Ansible. Okay, So let's start from here. So my plan, guys, is to configure this guy having the IP address 174. Let me create diagram again one more time. Okay. So my plan, guys, is to configure IP 174 as a reverse proxy. Or I can say a load balance. Load balancer is very famous term. Normally, we don't use this term a lot, a reverse proxy, but we normally use a term called load balancer. And how we going to configure IP170 as a load balancer for by a protocol HA proxy. This is one of the product. You can use other products also, but this is one of the very famous product we use. Okay, this is our plan. Okay, and I want my backend server will be this one. So this will be one of my backend server, IP120. Okay, but guys, how to configure backend server? Pretty straightforward. Backend server is just equals to a real web server. So you guys know how to configure the real web server. Okay, I will see very quickly one more time. And I have one more backend server. This will be this one. IP 155. So this would be my one more web server. So initially, how I start my practical, I would have to show you first. I will first configure this guy as my load balancer, and there will be no backend server. And what happened when any client come to this load balancer, okay, on this IP, and obviously this load balancer will have some port number. Let's say I'm going to use port number 88. Let's see what happened. Obviously, because this load balancer or reverse proxy wanted some web server or backend server, there is no web server or backend server. So let's see what happened initially. So let me guys configure this. Or let me do this practically the other way. That makes more logical sense. Let's configure this guy as a web server. And this guy is a web server. This is the way I explain you. So let's say you have two web server. So if you anybody want to connect, sorry, any of the web server, the client has to know that respect to IP address. So let's forget about load balancer. We have two web server. So let's say this IP I would like to configure as a web server, and by chance we have already configured this guy as a web server. Let me a little bit change in my conf file. Okay, if I have, so I don't have any conf file, and let me do some changes here because yesterday I have enabled some authentication part here. Okay, so let me disable. So I just wanted to set up my server with the by default settings. This is a configuration we did yesterday actually. Okay, and I'm going to put some web pages here. And guys, for some example, I'm going to create some PHP web pages here. Okay, for showing you something, right? So I'm going to create some PHP web pages here, and I'm writing some PHP code here. And the PHP code, I'm just printing the IP address of this current server. Why I'm doing this, you will understand in some minute. So this pretty simple PHP code I written here. Okay, and just formatting the output, I am just using some HTML tag, so output will come up very clear. That's all. So very simple PHP code I have written here. If you want to use, you can use the same code for testing your website. Okay, and let me restart my services. So finally, very simple. IP 155, we have configured a web server. Let me do one more small thing because I have created a PHP code. I should have PHP installed. So I'm installing the PHP also. Otherwise, your PHP code won't work. I say yes. PHP installed. Let me restart my service to tell my web server there's one more new interpreter come up. So PHP installed. So nothing very fancy. I think this most of the steps we guys already did in some of my other classes. So finally, IP 155 is my typical common web server having some web pages written in some language, here in this case PHP. Now any client who want to see my website, the one option is they have to come to this IP directly. So let's say this is my Windows, and I would like to use see this website. I just go to IP address 155. That's all. Enter. By chance here we have firewall. Let me for a while disable the firewall, or we can create a rule. I don't want to focus here on the firewall, so I'm disabling. And that's all. Page connected. It is not working. Why? Maybe I might have some error in the code. Code is working good. What is the error? Maybe, I don't know. Let me remove this file. This file might impact something. So IP 155. 1 minute. So we have these websites. By the meantime, my service start. Okay, so finally, guys, what do you see? What do we know till now? We have a one web server, and my client can connect if they know the IP. By chance, they know the IP and they have a direct connectivity, so they can connect. So IP 155, I'm trying to connect. It's still not connecting. I don't know. Let me check the IP is right. 155. Let me check the port number of HTTP. Working on 80. Port number working good. What is the challenge? One of it. Firewall stopped. I don't know. 1 minute. I've changed something here. Everything is look good. None. 1 minute. Anybody can see any issue? It might be SC Linux sometime might create some issue. Maybe possibility. Come on, yeah. Let me check from my command line with curl command in this URL. Nice. Website is working good. The output is coming, but PHP code is having some issue. PHP code is having issue, and website is working good, no challenge. PHP code is having some issue. What is the issue? I don't know. I have to check. Yeah, this code I've written multiple times. Just let me print just hi here just for testing. Yeah, output come up right, but they are not able to run. I have config command. Let me check again. Yeah, so guys, this command is not working. Okay, let me check. I don't know, maybe here backcode might not work. Let me run the date command just for testing one more time. 1 minute, please. Sorry. Yeah, date command working. I don't know what happened with if config command. Is working good. What is the issue? Why if config command is not working? Okay, let me try to do one more thing here. USR has been. Give me path. USR has been if config might be this time work, because sometimes we might have an issue in the path. Yeah. So guys, finally it's working. It's a pure coding to a path thing. So it's not important, but finally yeah, it's working. Okay, so I'll share this code to you. And now it is working. Great. So this is the first time this issue come up. I don't know why they are asking for the path, but yeah. they are working good. Okay, so this is the code I have just tested here. Okay, let me share this code to you. So so technically what you will see as a client perspective, as a client perspective, right? Client has a capability, because client know the IP of 155. They can go to this IP, and plus they have that connectivity also, or maybe of some networking connectivity they have, or maybe their firewall also allow all the things we have. So they can go to IP 155 and exit the site. And because we in the side we write some PSP code, and by chance in the PSP code we have written the same IP address. So if you see here, if somebody come to IP 155, they can see their IP address. It means it is a proof that we are on the IP 155. And same way, what I'm going to do, I'm configuring one more computer here, the 120. I'm going to configure 120 as a same web server. Okay, same thing I'm doing here. I'm just going to install a PHP here. Why means it won't ask yes or no. They will directly install. What happened? Mhm. Come on, what is happening? This command say yum is not working. Why so? Sorry. DNF. DNF. What man, guys? I think my yum is configured. Sorry. But my DVD is not mounted. It's mounted. It's not mounted. It's mounted. Okay. What happened? I don't know. Unwanted issue is coming. So let me delete this folder. Let me ask yum to. There might be some kind of cache issue sometime in the yum. Okay. And again, ask yum to install. Okay, now it's working good. So guys, these are small issues of the Linux. Why this issue come up? Because these are same system we are using for multiple purpose. So something sometime is conflicted. But yeah, if you fresh in the one, if you work on the fresh computer, this kind of issues never come. Okay, so this is configured. I configure the web server here. So let me remove my some older files. Okay, and that's all. Let me start my services. Okay, I'm doing a little bit faster because this is a setup we done multiple times. So these are not my main topic today. And let me remove this page. And let me create one PHP code. Same way with the start. There's a pure HTML code just to give a proper look and feel of the PHP output. PHP start, PHP close, and ask the print command. In the back code, there's a back code here, and I'm just giving the complete path usr has been of if config command and semicolon. It's always good practice to check manually this code for the syntax. Output is coming. And now, guys, if I go to my client, and if I go for IP 120, again the output come up. Okay, and then from the output we can see now we are 120. So technically, according to our current setup, by chance client also know the IP 120 and client also know the IP 155. So client can manually type the URL in the browser and can manually go to one of the IP on the web server to see the website. Again, the challenge guys the same the way I started today, right? In this case, if your client go to IP 155 and this 155 is busy at that point in time, they're not free. So client has to manually type the URL the way I typed here and to go to 120. And 120 is free, they will give the output. Otherwise, client will type the third IP of the third computer we have or third web server we have. But in this case, again, the issue we have, right? If you have hundreds of computer running web server, none of the client can go and manually type IP1, IP2, IP3, IP120, IP155. So I would like to give a client a facility. First facility, I don't want to give a client a direct connectivity of these guys for their security. And second facility of the client is I would like to give one single IP to the client. In my case is 174. Okay, and say this is the actual URL where you have to go. Again, by chance, because this 174 is also work like a load balancer, it means first client will go to this system, second client automatic connect to this system, third and fourth automatic load balancer will happen. And at this kind of connectivity, first IP go here, second connection go here, third go here, fourth go here. This kind of process in the load balancer, or this kind of mechanism in the load balancer is called round robin. So this load balancer is working with a concept called round robin. That's a by default behavior any of the load balancer give to you. So technically, guys, in this setup, you guys know how to configure 120. You guys know how to configure M55. Manually, you can know with Ansible also. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to configure 174 as a reverse proxy or load balancer manually. Then we go for Ansible. So motto is the first step. The first step is to install a software called HA proxy. So let me start from here. Okay. So I'll go to IP 174 and I'll use yum command to install it. So by chance this software come in your Red Hat DVD. There's a very famous product, very commonly used product. So first step is done. Second step is, and it's but obvious, guys. Second step is to configure reverse proxy. And technically, what we have to configure, we have to tell my reverse proxy that you will work as a backend. Your front, so you have to work as a front end. Your front end port is 8080 or whatever you want to change. And your backend server, right now we have two. One is 120, working on port number 80. One is 155, working on port number 80. And guys, those things you have to configure in HA proxy. And guys, whenever you want to configure something, you have to update the configure file or configuration file of HA proxy. HA proxy. So where you find this file? So in the IP 174, the conf file of HA proxy is located here. So this is a location, guys, where you find. Let me share every steps to you. You will find the conf file. And what you have to write in this file, because now you know the concept. Now this file look very simple to you. What you can write here. Okay, you can write here. 1 minute. Okay, that I am the front end, and my front end port number is called bind. Also is 5000. That is by default port, but I'm looking to change the port number 88. It will be your choice what a port number you would like to work, and what URL you want to provide to the client. Let's say I would like to use 80 port, you can give 80 also, right? But in this case, I'm going for this port number. So I am the front end, front end, and my port number is 88. So this is guys first change I am doing here. And again, understand one thing. Sorry, again, understand one thing. I am changing this value here manually, but you have to use Ansible to change some value here. Again, we can use replace module or some other module to go to this file and change these values. Okay. And second thing is, if you see here in this line, let me write here. Let me take a copy of this page. Okay. So what is written here that I am a front end. I will work on this particular port number. That's my front end port. And anything about my backend server, you can find in a block called app block. It's just a block name. What I mean by this, if you go to this page down, okay, there's one block called app. You see the same name. It's just a name. You can change this name here. What name change here, you can change here. And here you can define about the backend. So first of all, guys, your backend will work as a load balancer with a mechanism called a round robin. Means first request go to one system, second request go to second system. And here you have to give the list of all the backend server. maybe a 2 server, 100 server, 1,000 server, you have to provide the list over here. Okay. So let me update. So by chance I have two backend server. So one of the IP of my backend server that I know already is IP address 120 that work on a port number called 80, because we know we are the one who configure this. And one more server we have as a backend is IP address 155. Again, work on the port number. That's all, guys. That's the only thing you have to configure. Okay, so HA process very simple, very straightforward to configure. Okay, and let me save this file. And because the conf file we updated, so HA proxy has their own services. That's called HA proxy. Okay, there's some error come up. There might be possibility I have done some mistake here. I don't think so. This line looks good. This line also looks good. Okay. Or this port number also look good. They fail. Most of them, guys, there might be possibility why they fail, because in one OS, one services can use one port number, or I can say one port number can only use by one service. So there might be possibility there might be some other program who is using port number 8080. So let me use my netshut command and search, does 8080 port is already consumed or used by some other program? Is not right. So it is not the case. So why they fail? Okay. So if you guys don't know why they fail, so normally if service fail, in the last line they give a command called general ctl exe. They might give you sometime idea about their failure. And if you use arrow key up back and forth, so they say okay, they weren't able to resolve. Guys, it's my spelling mistake. I can see very easily. I have used colon here. There's not colon, it's dot. But it's good command, right? It's give you an idea your address is wrong. Okay, so I use this command to find out the challenge or the error. So I go to this file. And error is sometimes not visible, but it's clear. It's spelling mistake. And guys, that's the reason, guys, we never prefer to go for manual. In manual thing, we always do a mistake, spelling mistakes. But if you go to automation, automation is always give a guarantee. They always configure the thing very accurate for you. Okay, now it's good. And let me start the services. Okay, and if you want, you can also make the service permanent enable. After reboot, it won't goes down. Or because now my HS proxy is working on the port number 8080, you can see the port number also started. Okay, and maybe there might be some firewall here. So let me disable the firewall just for testing. So I am disabling the firewall. 1 minute. For this computer. 1 minute. Come on. So this is also computer, guys. Maybe this website computer doesn't have the website, but they have the firewall. So just for a while, I'm disabling the firewall. But you guys know how to enable the firewall manually, maybe, but otherwise, with the help of Ansible, you guys know. Okay, so let's see, guys, how it works. And let's consider that client don't know anything about IP 120 and 155, or they might possibly IPs keep on changing. Okay, or maybe there might possibility they don't have a DAC internet or network connectivity, or maybe they have some firewall that won't allow any of the client, or maybe all possibility we have. But in this any of the cases, client don't have to worry about anything about the DAC connectivity with the web server. Okay, so what client can do, clients have to go only to this URL. Okay, and guys, what you will see interesting thing, right? If you this is the first time you are using some kind of load balance and reverse proxy, this might be look very interesting. So if guys, when you hit IP 174, let's see what happens. Guys, by chance this page come up. Why this page come up? Not because of HA proxy, because of the way I configure Apache web server yesterday. Okay, so let me disable this. Okay, but right now, if you notice, guys, here I have connected to Apache web server. Why? Because maybe in the same computer, on some other port number, some other service running. So we are not interested in this port number. Okay, right now in our case, web server is working. HA proxy is working on a port number 8080. Okay, so for the client, I'll tell client you have to go to this IP and you have to connect to the port number 8080. And when you connect to this port number, you'll see your website. But if you notice one thing, guys, in IP 174, we don't have any website. If you want to check, okay, this IP 174, if you go to this folder, we don't have a website. Even though if you want, you can remove this page also. So in IP 174, there is no website, even though we can see the content. And second thing, if you notice here, okay, because they don't have the website, even though we don't require to have the website there, right? So 174 take the request on the client behalf, they send here, they get the data and give the client. It means client without knowing the IP 120, they will get the content of 120 or maybe 150. I don't know, because here they are doing the load balancing. Okay, so let's see here. See here, guys, it's very interesting. If you notice here, okay, I am still connected to IP 174. Okay, and guys, that is the difference between, if you guys know by chance a concept called netting, or not the netting, actually I say port forwarding, or IP forwarding, or router. Okay, it's not visible, but in the router behind the scene they send the request to main computer. But technically what I'm talking about here is, okay, we are still connected to IP 174. Who we are the client, and we think request or output is coming from IP 174, but we know in 174 we haven't created any page. And that is the reason, guys, in 120 I've created a page with IP if config command to present you that this page is actually coming from 120. Okay, this is actual page we created 120. And next time if one more client or same client maybe try to hit one more time, guys, sometimes they might met the same page. See here. Again, still I connect the same page or same IP address, but I get the different IP. Okay, different IP means I just, because I print IF config command, but in the real world you have to put the same content. So as a client, they can see the same content. It is something like this. If you type google.com, you can see it. Okay. Again, if you run google.com, again on google.com, every time you see the same page. But internally, they might be connected to any of the Google server, hundreds, thousands of Google server and behind the scene. But everybody has same page. It should look like we still connect to the same website, but they might be connected to other pages or other, different servers. But here, intentionally, guys, I manually change the pages content so I can show you that load balancing happening behind the scene. So finally, guys, we have successfully configure the reverse proxy with have a by default out of the box feature called load balancer and working fine. So finally, now we know the concept and we know the step. We know the steps and final step to start the services of HA proxy. And now, because we know that if you want to configure HA proxy, you have to go to this file. We have to go to this file .cfg, I believe. Inside this file, in some of the line, we have to add a port number. In some of the line, we have to add all the backend server. Okay, so because we know the steps. Now, same thing if you want to configure with the Ansible, how can you do? Okay, so let's see, guys, how we can do the same thing with the Ansible. Okay, and now again, there's multiple way we can do to configure this thing with the Ansible. What I mean by multiple thing, right? If you want to configure the conf file, then we have multiple way. Today, I'm going to show you some simplest way. Why there's some reason for this. Then I'll go. I'll show you some of the complex way also in upcoming classes. But let's start. Come to our main topic. Let me start my controller node. So I'm going to write a playbook. And in the playbook, I will tell my playbook that you have to configure two different kind of computers Okay, one computer is IP174 that work as a proxy, as a proxy, and two computer will work as a web server. And now, guys, understand. You'll see, student, one more new thing. If one playbook want to configure different kind of setup, how we can tackle this problem also. Okay, because till now, right, we keep on using the keyword called host keyword. Host keyword all means till now all the computer we configure the same way. We configure the same way. Okay, but today some computer will configure as a web server, some configure as a load balancer. Maybe in the future some computer work as a databases. Okay, so how we can tackle this problem also, we'll see today. So plan is now, because we have three computers and to be managed by Ansible, so we have to first of all create inventory. Okay, so let system come up. One minute, guys. So because by chance we know where the inventory file located, otherwise I have to go to my con file to find the location of the inventory file. But this is the file we have. And now we have three IPs today. One is 174, one is 120, and one is 55. Okay, very quickly, I just want to check that all the IPs have a connectivity or not. That we should have. So now today's plan is to configure one computer as a HA or proxy, or two is web server. Okay, so for this, let me very quickly create one more new workspace, and I'm going to write um, uh, um, playbook here. Okay, and now the challenge is here. Challenge here is uh, in the host keyword. What I'm talking about. Let me write one first task here. Task, and one task that I would like to run here is scope package. And one of the packages that I would like to install here called HTTPD. Okay. Now point over here is, okay, we would like to install this software HTTPD, that is my web server, right? And by chance, I would like to configure only IP120 or IP155 as a web server. I don't want to configure IP174 as a web server. I don't want to install this software. Okay. But if you don't want to install the software, so what you have to write here? If you write all, if you install the software in all the system. I don't want. So second option would be, because you're looking to install this software on IP 120 and 155. So one of the things you can do here is you can manually type the IP. Let's say this is 120 and second IP is 155. So does it work? Obviously it works. I always show you in my initial classes. But this is one of the way. But in the future, if you have 100 or 1,000 web server, you have to keep on typing all the IP again and again. Or maybe some of the web server you don't want to configure, to manually again change it. Okay, and this is one of the playbook. Maybe you have to create maybe 10 more playbook for these web servers or these IPs 120, 155. So to better way to do these things, what can we do? Okay, there's one option available in the inventory. What can we do? We can group the things. How? We can now group in this way. Now we can tell my inventory, these two computer have one group and this computer has their own different group. And we can give a group a name. How? In the square bracket. If we can give a group name, let's call it web server. Or we can give this group a name called, for example, let's say load balance. Or this is just a name, guys. You can give any, for example, this is my load balancer, this is my web server. You can give any group name, but this is syntax. In the square bracket, you have to give some name. And after this, continuously, we give all the IPs. It means now we have three inventory, but you have given your own personal group name. And how it work? Now, okay. So you know this command Ansible all list host. So all is again one kind of group name actually. This group means all the IP whatever I have in my inventory, all the IP come up. Okay, so this is a predefined group names. It is already given by the Ansible. But there's some group name we have created. So we can use here. For example, one of the group name I created is called my web. So Ansible go to inventory file, and whenever they find this group name, they will list their host name. Yeah, 2 IP I have given there. Or maybe you can use a group name called LB. There's only one IP. So technically, okay, because it's a very common thing because I have hundreds and thousands of computers. I don't want to configure same thing all the computer. Okay, so what can we do? We can go to inventory. We can create now this 10 computer will have a same thing. Just give one group name. This one computer has only one independent thing. Give different group name. So we can create multiple group name like this. For example, anybody by chance who know Hadoop. So in the Hadoop we have one master node. So we can give a master node IP and give the name called my name node. Or we might have 100 worker node, slave node. All the 100 worker node IP we can write here and give my data node. So you want to do anything on the master node, use this name. You want to do something on the slave node, give this name. That's all. And where to give? Again in the Ansible ad hoc command or maybe in the playbook. So instead of you manually type all the IP here, I can say the group name is called my web. I don't know how many IP we have. Maybe one or be 100, or maybe keep on adding the IP in the future. But in this group, maybe 2 IP or 200 IP we have. I would like to configure these IPs to be installed with this software. So this concept over here is called, okay, we can create a group of the host. Okay, and guys, by chance, this name is also known as host group. Okay, host group. So we by this way we can create a host group. And guys, this is very important concept, very simple, but a lot of use cases of this concept we have. And one of the great use case, anybody who know a concept of service discovery or auto service discovery, this concept will help us. Or anybody who wanted to know about dynamic inventory, in the future we'll discuss this topic. This concept gonna help a lot. Okay, but right now it's a pretty simple concept I explained here. Okay, now what happened in this inventory? Now if I run this playbook, because I create a play, and now if you see guys here, now all is not coming. I am applying the play on this group, or because in this group we have only 2 IP they detected in my inventory file, and they're applying my task only on those IPs. Okay, and same time I can write one more host keyword, and I'm applying this host keyword only in my load balancer. And here I'm writing some extra task, and the task here would be again package. And I know this contain maybe one single IP or hundreds IP, but this system will have to install only one package called HAProxy. HAProxy. Because my plan is to configure this IP and group of these IPs to have HAProxy. And guys, this is a great example to understand. Now this is a playbook because we have two different play. This is a different play altogether, and this is a different play altogether. And this is a great example to explain you why in the front of host keyword we have to write hyphen. Because in one playbook we can create a list of hosts. This is the first list, this is the second list. Because you guys know in the YML, all the item of the list you have to start with hyphen in the YML language. Now what you will see here in this example, okay, now it will run two play for us. First play on my web. In this play we have one single task, and this is called package task. They're installing HTTP software. And now this is the first time you'll see they are running one more play for us. And this play they are only applying on this IP, and here and this IP they're installing some other software. And always, yeah, I told you, is good practice. Whenever you run the task, always try to give the name. This makes more logical sense. Name of this guy is what? Name for this is uh, install httpd rpm. And name of this task is, one minute please, name of this task is install load balancer software. Okay, so that makes always sense. It's very clear when you run the playbook. You guys know this part, but I just wanted to write. So how to configure web server, we done multiple time, but how to configure the HA proxy? Okay, so by chance we know the steps. Okay, so we have to first do this, last this step, this one, and this is a little bit critical step, how we can configure the file. Okay, so what I do, guys, what I want, my plan today is to explain you how HA proxy work or load balancer work. I think I explained you already. How to configure it manually, I explained you already. Okay, but how to do configure with the Ansible. Okay, this task I just want to give to you. Okay, even though I given you this little bit idea also to create groups, so one single playbook or group of IP we can write here. Okay, so I just want to give you guys this task. I want you try, okay, to configure web server and the entire HA proxy by writing your own code with Ansible. Okay, and guys, if you done this properly and if it's working great for you, so I want to give you one challenge here. Okay, the challenge is, I know this is very pretty straightforward task because this kind of thing, most of the example we have seen. I won't just do it with Ansible. But if you've done this successfully, I just want to give you one challenging task. Okay, the challenging task over here is a very interesting concept, and we use this concept a lot. Okay, for example, let's say you have configured load balancer with Ansible. We configure load balancer only once, right? Okay, and now right now in my example, we have 120 as a web server, we have 155 as a web server, and in the load balancer conf file, we updated their IPs, or we can say we have registered. How? I just go to this file and write this IP here, write this IP here. And let me show you very quickly. We write this IP here. So this is my load balancer file, and we write this IP here. And who write? In my case, I write manually. Okay, but in the Ansible, we have to use a template module or copy module or some way we have to use. Okay, so till here, if you guys try to figure out by yourself, it won't be won't be a big challenge. Okay, challenge come up. Challenge come up. Let's say we have more suddenly new load come up and we ask Ansible, we have one more computer. Let's say I having IP 200 and I want, can you please configure IP 200 as a web server? So Ansible will configure for us. And guys, here in this example, okay, use of host group play a vital role. You know what you have to do? You have to just go to inventory and just write IP 200 here. That's all in this group. And now beautiful part of this way of managing the groups or the host group is if you write the IP 200 in this group, so now my group, my web group has one more IP. Or because in my playbook, okay, we write our code and this code is applying per group basis. So when without changing this code, if you run this playbook again, automatically because this group will come, automatically have one more new IP come up. So automatically that IP will automatically configure web server. Okay, what I mean by this, when you try this, you understand automatically this thing. So till here, everything is great way to manage. But challenge come up, guys. This IP will automatic configured as a web server. But if you want this web server work with load balancer, you again go to load balancer, update the conf file and say now one more new IP come up 200. Means you to again go to this load balancer conf file, obviously with the Ansible, and write one more line here that now we have one more computer come up that's called 200. Obviously you do with the Ansible, but even though if you do with the Ansible, somewhere in the Ansible template or source file, we have to write this line, right? Maybe Ansible will do this thing for you, but in the control node, from where this file is uploading, or maybe the playbook who is updating this file, somewhere you have to type this line manually in the in this playbook. Okay, that's I don't want, guys, here. Okay, uh, why? Because normally in this kind of world, hundreds of server come if we need traffic increase, or maybe hundreds of server goes down if traffic is not coming. Okay, if 200 IP come and again goes down, again come, again goes down, changing every time in the control node in some of the source file or template file that you upload, okay, is a big challenging. So technically what I'm talking about, okay, I'm talking about whenever IP200 config as a web server, your load balancer automatic update themselves. That now one more 200 IP come up and load balancer automatic update with the help of Ansible, that 200 IP come up and they automatically update this line. And if 200 IP goes down, automatically this line removed. And maybe next time new IP come up, okay, they update with the latest IPs. Automatic they discover this IP and update the new IP. Okay, maybe guys, you understand this task properly or not, but but if you first of all you do this task with Ansible to configure the HA proxy. After do that, you can relate what actually I'm talking about. So after you do this task, let's think you have only 2 servers, and by chance you know this IP already. And after this task done, then try to launch one more computer and try to install this system as a web server. Very simple. But that this point in time, guys, you will see there's some kind of challenge you're facing. Okay. And the challenge is you have to again manually update the load balancer or maybe manually update the playbook. That I don't want. I want automatic the update on the fly in the load balancer conf file. There's new IP come up. So I want thing to be very much automated. This task is also automated. Very powerful concept. This is very commonly we use in today's world of dynamic world. And this is very much used if you go for very core concept of Kubernetes, where my container pod is keep on changing. Okay, so this is a very common thing we need in today's world. So this is a task I would like to give you. Tomorrow I'll show you complete solution of this. Step by step I will do for you. But today I just wanted to give you this task, give some concepts, plus the practical how to configure this. So that's all for today. Try it. Okay, try it tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll show you how to configure it. So that's all, guys, for today. I'll share these steps plus some of the basics code what I've written today. Okay. Otherwise, see you tomorrow, guys. Any questions if you have, you guys can ask me. Subhasis, there's a way in the configuration file of Apache web server where you can set the limits. Okay, or other way also. There's a concept called a C group. Okay, where also we can set the limit, because when any client connect, they connect to the sub process or can say thread of the web server, so we can limit on the thread also. How to cut the line in YAML file? I don't understand, Mohammed, what you mean by cut here. Okay, maybe if you're talking about how to how to from the YAML code, how to go to the remote server and write something in between. If this is the use case, you can use the replace module, or there's a module called line in file or file in line module. Yes, Sobit, you can use Ansible code to configure Arduino also. Okay, because Arduino a device that is used in IoT also have a capability to do first of all SSS. There's a way we can enable SSS there on the Arduino. Plus, they have a capability to support HTTP, and via the HTTP we can configure Arduino, right? So, so there's a concept in the Ansible through which we can configure something, maybe devices or IoT devices like Arduino or Node, Node, okay, with the API, HTTP API. Okay, so answer yes. So with what you ask, we can do. So, Sri, thank you very much. Actually, waiting to more deep dive. Yes, we are moving to more deep dive into the Ansible. Obviously we have to go slowly because most of guys here in Ansible they are learning first time. No, Mahi, MATLAB we won't discuss in the Earth, but almost what are the MATLAB will do for you, we can do with some other way and library also that we will discuss in the Earth. What different with reverse proxy and proxy? There's a huge difference, Nishant, between a reverse proxy. Today, what I explain you is a reverse proxy, but normally what you see in the market, when you go to one server, or server will take you to the other other server, get the request and give to you. Normally, in the sometime no most of the time in the colleges, they set up the proxy servers for you. Okay, or maybe maybe in some company also you'll see they set up the proxy, and we don't have a direct connective internet. We always go via proxy. So the normal setup that you use proxy, you see in the college and the company sometime, that is actually proxy. But here this reverse, because in uh, uh, in the reverse you can, because why we say reverse, because normally in the proxy server is different, in the reverse server is ours. That is very very simple, small difference you can see here. Think here. um, yes, sort of slowly we are moving toward a concept where we have to use a lot of ginger. Maybe this task you want to optimize more, we can do with the ginger. So we'll maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll start discussing on the ginger templates. Mohammad Azmal, soon we will again resume Hadoop. So yes, Aditya, I think I have given a task somewhere where I ask you to write Ansible code to configure an AWS cloud, but but in my upcoming classes I'll take this example also. What is host manager? Akash, there's a lot of this word is commonly used in multiple technologies, called host manager. If you can if you can tell me which context you are asking me this term host manager, then I can explain you. Again, Vijay, proxy and VPN also have a difference. Okay, I'm not taking right now, but if you are by chance a part of my Earth program, some these are the concept we are going to configure. Proxy is a different thing, VPN is different. Look like same. Underground underlying technology is again look like a little bit same, but the final use cases of proxy, reverse proxy, and VPN are different. How can we minimize the downtime? Sumit, it is actually great. I don't know which context you asked me, but it's a great question actually. And for minimizing downtime, we have to use multiple strategy, right? So there are a lot of strategy we have to minimize your downtime. Depend what kind of application also you're running. Okay, so again, I'm not discussing right now. One of the example maybe blue green or canary deployment and rolling upgrade, or depend guys what exactly you want to do or why you have a downtime. Okay, but yeah, nowadays we have a lot of different strategies or different kind of platform available, especially the container or Kubernetes platform. They help you a lot. Almost 99.99% we have the uptime, or maybe sometimes 100% also. I have seen the error with the command called general CTL, general general CTL hyphen XE. I think I shared that command also in my doc. Anmol, if you want to configure controller node in the AWS, no, you don't need a public IP. In that case, your controller node can go to any of the managed node to configure. But yeah, if you don't have public IP, how you can connect? Okay, that's a different point. Yes, Rashid, load balancer also have a limit. Also have a limit, but that way can be changed. But that limit can serve more because technically load balancer don't have so much impact in the performance because they don't have any code, right? Because, for example, if you go to web server, and every time they run the PHP code, load balancer I don't have to run that code. So as a resource perspective, they can serve more. So how we can provide the IP like domain name bhavesh.com, something like this. Bhavesh, for this you have to configure DNS. So we'll see in the future. Sarthak, no, this topic won't repeat in the Earth. This is actually Earth, right? This Ansible is a part of the Earth program, right? So it's Ansible is not a separate for from the Earth, right? But this concept will repeat multiple time, or HA proxy will repeat multiple, will use multiple time. Don't worry, you don't able to get all the concept. So we're gonna use multiple time. You become comfortable. Uh, Sidiptu, I keep on uploading all of my playbook in your Google Drive doc. So just please refer the doc. It is the code is there, copied in the terms of screenshot. Wagela, this is one of the great question you asked me. What he asked me, in this case, maybe web server has a backend database. So if you multiple web server, how those multi web server will share uh, one single database? Okay, so this is a great question, and I have a demo on this. I will discuss about how we can plan that kind of infrastructure. Right? I'll show you in my some of the classes. Occurs what you write about the criteria for that interview. I absolutely not at all agree with this is the rule of the company. We can't do right now, but Earth Learner finally will change this perspective of percentage, right? Because finally there's no meaning of the percentage. We have to use our concepts or the technologies knowledge to implement on the company. But these are very old typical rules. If some company has right now, we can't change, but this perspective will change soon. So, does somebody asked me, does Ansible playbook work sequentially? Playbook means I mean to say task. Answer is yes. Right now, by default, yes. But we have a way. I will show you in my upcoming class. We can make it parallel also. How we'll see. Yes, part yesterday. I think you're talking about regex. So that is the reason I take this topic also because in this topic also we might have to use some regex. So maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, mostly day after tomorrow, might be I will talk about regex. Radhika asked me if you use Kubernetes for load balancing, then how we can use Ansible. Actually, there's two different things, Radhika. You can think in this way. Let's say you need Kubernetes, but who are going to configure Kubernetes server or cluster for us? We also want somebody who can configure Kubernetes for us, right? So here the role of Ansible come in play. Ansible is the one who will set up the Kubernetes cluster master and the Kubernetes worker node for us. And yeah, after Kubernetes configure, Kubernetes will have an internal load balancers. There we don't need Ansible to configure extra load balancer for us. But by chance, Kubernetes is also using a product called HA proxy. That's a different thing. But understand one thing, there are two different products. Ansible is different, Kubernetes is different. Kubernetes duty is to only manage the containers. That's all. Okay. Apart from this, they give extra facility. There's a different point. But if you don't have a Kubernetes, how you gonna use the Kubernetes, right? So for this, initially Ansible will help me to configure the Kubernetes cluster. After Kubernetes come up, then we can use Kubernetes for some other tasks where we can use the Kubernetes. So I think Radhika, I think you might got some high level idea, but there are a lot of use cases where Kubernetes is useful, but there are a lot of use cases Kubernetes mm, won't be useful. Okay, but I can compare because both the tool has a different use case. Ansible is only for configuring things, right? That's all. Kubernetes is only for one thing, to manage the containers or to launch the container. So that's all, guys. There might be a lot of queries here. Most of the query I try to touch. Some of the queries will become in my upcoming classes to be discussed and to be cleared. That's all for today, guys. A very interesting example and the task I have given to you. Just try um, um, to solve by yourself, guys. Otherwise, I'll show you the answer tomorrow. Bye. Take care. See you. Good day. Good night.